Hi, buddy. Jeff Allen here. I've made a number of videos on kind of the business aspects of the language industry and field, including the pricing dilemma and things. And then Corinne McKay did a really great presentation at the Translation Innovation Summit here in November, I think 15 to 17. Yeah, 15 to 17 of 2022, sponsored by Tech Forward. And Hi, buddy, Jeff. I was near the restaurant today and then I came to this other one and I totally forgot in this one to talk about Jessica Rathke and Thomas Edwards and how they've been working on the whole pricing thing for language service providers for, quite a while. They give a lot of training sessions and we've been kind of discussing it too. So, sorry, Kat, can you have this cough? But they gave a seminar with a gala, the Globalization Association for Language Companies. I can't remember the gala. Everybody knows gala, right? So they gave a webinar on this several weeks ago, and I kind of commented on that, and then we talked about it afterwards, kind of offline, and we were all kind of having the three of us, Thomas and or Jessica, Thomas and I were all kind of online on the same thing of the issues of the pricing dilemma. And so I just want to mention, what they're doing too, because they've got a lot of series of webinars they're doing, not just sponsored by certain webinar things, but they're doing training classes on us to train language service providers, smaller ones, and freelancers on pricing and how to do better pricing, do better account management, and all that. So I kind of want to shout out to them too, because that's been happening in parallel. So I didn't mention in the earlier version of this video, I was doing what I only mentioned green, but several of us, have been talking about this. So I want to mention the others because they're doing training sessions, and I want to kind of let people know that this exists. You don't have to come to these. I just do a lot of responses to posts on LinkedIn and stuff or webinars. So, I'm not trying to make professional training sessions on it. I just try to give feedback on my experience. And then I give a lot of internal training sessions at my company and all that. So that's where I usually talk about this stuff. But so I don't want to point to all of these other folks that are doing this, that are giving, they're trying to help boost this industry, this field with knowledge of how to do this and their training sessions. So I want to point to those. And I wanted to reply to it because I think she's really onto something that's really key. I've been talking a lot about this, and I've been thinking about how to, for years of how to get around this. And the whole thing is that like the whole big question I have is that this is an industry that is so focused on pricing by word that where it used to have a lot of different things like desktop publishing and project management, all that people did by hour, but then that's going to start being dropped for people to get the deal. And then so you drop all the stuff that gets the extra margins, and then you finish up with the fact that the pricing per word hasn't changed at all. Many have said that pricing hasn't changed at all for 30 years. Now, I have sold things at much higher prices in projects, but I also priced I sold solution packages, including per hour for a lot of different things. And I'm not going to go into all that here. but I sold it for big projects, and I made sure that it was well funded, and so that we kept our people too to do the work. And I made sure that the value of the translation was highly valued, and the customer understood that for a lot of languages. So, so I don't want to go into that anymore, but I want to kind of deal with how can people, especially freelancers, kind of begin. So I got a cough here, but I'm coming out of a bronchitis fit, and I've had all the meds and stuff. It's just, it's still kind of hanging on. And I need to get this video done, or I'm going to forget it because I got so many videos to do. So, drinking lots of fluids and other things. So, no smoking, so, at all, because I don't smoke. But the key thing I think here to think about, and I think she began to say I think one of her key points that was really important to hear that Korean said was that when she works 40 hours, she invoices for 24 hours of that, if I remember correctly in the numbers. 24 out of 40. And that's something really important to understand. Now, Karina, I'm not sure if you invoice that at the same price, right? Because this is what I want to deal with here, and I think this is the key. I think it's a really important thing to consider. Because there are a lot of other things that you're doing, right? And we're all doing that we're not invoicing. We should be invoicing it. That's what I said. We should be invoicing it, but on a different kind of thing. And how to do that is the question, right? So, because a lot of people say, oh, I can't invoice this, I can't do that, I got to include my terminology work inside of my translation. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have to. You're doing it because you don't think you can do it. I've invoiced for all this stuff, or in project management, all that, website stuff, whatever. So, marketing. So, and then she was talking about even vacation time and making sure that you're invoicing enough to get so you can do other things, right? And put in an account and all that and be able to use it. So, I don't want to go to all that, but what I want to do is deal with. I want to give some examples here. So I know my local music store guy really well, and I spend a lot of time with him, and I watch what he does and stuff, and I've made a lot of comments. And I have some guitar luthiers, some guitar makers in the area that I've, willing to. I'm an auditor, so I kind of like to audit things and see how they're doing things, and kind of make comments and stuff to how to improve their processes, and to how to do the business parts of it, and how to apply the business aspects, especially pricing, right? So I've been watching my music store guy. I'm on leave of absence right now, so I'm kind of watching what he does, and so commenting on all kinds of stuff. When he works on this, when he prepares this, when he does that, is how much that cost, how much it costs you to do it, and how much you invoice, and and we talk a lot about that. And what I've pointed out to him for a number of years is that the things that he does his own fund, he does his own accounting, right? And then he has an expert, accountant afterwards look over the stuff. But he does all the stuff because it saves him money to do that, right? That's there's a factor. Now he doesn't get paid for that, but that's the pricing that he's doing of everything else he's doing has to pay for that time. So there shows the value of that time, and the fact that he's saving, not spending money on a much more expensive person to do the work for that. There's a value out of it. Now the question is, how much is that per hour value of working, doing accounting, doing the typing, doing the inventory, and all those things, right? How much is that cost per hour? And then how much is he saving by doing it himself? So this is the key thing. This is a really important thing to start with. Then the website. He has a website. Not everything's on the website. He doesn't put everything up there because it would take, he could just spend his whole day just doing that, right? But the whole thing here is, how much is the marketing time of the website? How much does that cost? How much does it cost to do, some people think he spends his whole day just playing guitars. He doesn't. He spends more time actually discussing and doing project management and doing things with his suppliers and sending back things and all that. So how much does that cost? The tasks of project management related things related to the inventory. How much does it cost to actually unbox his stuff and do that and all that? And then there are lots of these extra things, right? Going through and putting labels of the stickers on the pricing on the things. How much it costs to do that. He does a lot of different tasks all day long, but I've asked him, has he thought about those different prices and stuff and different costs? Not prices, but costs. And then when he has to price things, he has to get it so he can cover everything, right? So, so I think the important thing here to really think about is, and then add to it his production, right? So he does the production. He does repair work. He sells, so he does sales, of new instruments and stuff, and he does repair work of older instruments. He has a I can't remember what to call it in English, where people can sell their guitars through you. Consignment. So sales and consignment. So he will, have to take pictures of that, take pictures of the guitars that people drop off and they want to do. He has to clean it up, put new strings on it and all that. And so all these things are things he has to do for used guitars, right? And the goal is to get a certain percentage of commission off that, so that'd be worth it. But then there are sometimes things take longer. And so he tries, I'm sure he's averaging out things. Sorry, I get this cough. It sounds bad, but it's really not that bad. Um, but the whole thing is that there are a lot of different factors here. And so it's interesting when we're looking at his list of his invoicing, what he's got of his prices that he says each thing costs to do on certain types of topics. It's an average, right? So sometimes it'd be faster, sometimes slower. And sometimes he can do a little bit extra stuff on things, like when he's doing a changing strings. I'm trying to give some real examples that help people understand. You don't have to really understand it really in depth, deep, but it helps to understand how this functions because we're all doing this, right? It's a whole question of quality. So when he changes strings, he can do a basic string change and not do anything else. He doesn't have to, he doesn't have to shine up the frets with the little, wire stuff. He doesn't have to clean the wood on the. He could doesn't use some lemon oil and clean the wood on the thing. He doesn't have to do it, but he sometimes does if it's dry, right? Or if it's a customer that he wants to really please, right? And because the customer will buy more stuff, right? So if it's one customer who's never seen before, he might do less, maybe. But there are times when he'll do the extra effort, and it might take an extra minute. And we timed some of this. We timed how much it took him to do 3 guitar string changes on 3 guitars that came in, and we're timing this and looking at it and looking at it, and then he was getting phone calls in the middle of it too, right? So it kind of distracted him. So you can kind of look at the exact time, the actual time, and the elapsed time. And all things are really key to kind of figure out the pricing of things. How much it really take to do things. And here we're talking about hourly stuff, right? But I really want to mention the question of quality. It's easy to do too much quality and stuff. He could, if he did everything all the time, he could make it too expensive, right? For his cost. So the key here is to not do too much for what it's worth to be able to get the job done for the customer's need. Because sometimes customer doesn't want the extra stuff, but he wants to do it so he can, for other reasons, right? And he wants to have customer loyalty. But sometimes the customer doesn't want it, right? And doesn't need it. So, and then the translation field, there's a lot of over engineering, way over quality, way too much quality, way too much sometimes compared to what the customer asks for. And I've always made it so that I understand what the customer wants first, what they're willing to pay for, and tell them, let's make clear what you don't want, right? So not make that really clear. And then I tell them, but if you come back and you're complaining about the things that you don't want to pay for, and they would be included in something that I could offer you, you're going to have to pay for that. And I made people pay up to 25% more on bug fixing of things because they didn't want to take the package that could include it. So I've done this, okay? I've actually done it. And cost some money to people. They learn the lesson. So some of these things are really important to kind of sit down and figure out all your value, your cost for everything in a general way, and then kind of begin to say how much if you do this, how much you do to get it. And you have to think beyond the words, right? Can you do things? Can you do things some hourly stuff? Terminology should never be done for free and never be included in the word. Never, never, never. If you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. A lot of people do it that way, I'm telling you. But I've done it where you can package it. You do it. You force people to do it. Got to convince them to do it. Got to convince them to do it. You got to be a good salesperson, and that's the key. So you got to sell it too, right? Convincing people to have the value is a really tough thing, but that's what a good salesperson does, right? So I kind of just want to give that example. I don't want to go and go because I don't make this video too long or people won't watch it, right? So, but I think that this pricing thing is a really key thing, and freelancers need to how to figure this out, and then they can tell their provider, their vendor, well, the people that they're working for is in the vendor management, for language service providers or language service companies, right? How much value in those is what costs and why it costs that much. And once we begin having that, which is not an easy thing to do, then it starts working, right? But that's when you have the value thing. We got a long way to go. Well, for those that need to work on it and how to understand it, we got to convince the customers this is what it costs. Is the customer willing to pay or not? That's another question. So, but that's what good salespeople are for. Got to be good salespeople, and that's the big issue. We got to sell more sell more pies. We got to get really good at selling more pies and selling the pies and why they're valuable. So, um, but thank you, Corinne, for your really good talk. It made me think about it a lot. I was driving my car and listening, and I just maybe helped me think of a lot of things. Helped me kind of fine tune what I've been thinking about for a number of years too. So, thanks for the inspiration and to have me kind of give another thing to help us kind of think about how to do this. We're all working on it, right? And how to do it. So thanks so much. Jeff out.